All right, it's gonna be a fun one. I'm excited about this. Eli Sparkman walk on for the South Carolina Gamecocks. We go back. I knew him as a baseball player before basketball player. Just want to throw that out there. So, yeah, let's talk. How did you know basketball was your sport over like baseball? I guess.
So yeah, shout out the Chattanooga Cyclones. I used
Yeah.
to play with Chase back in the day. I was on the younger team, but had some times playing up and practicing with them. But so going into high school, I transferred to Baylor School in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Big rivalry with Chase right there, one of the best high school rivalries there is. And I went playing basketball and baseball, not really having a preference between the two, just big difference going into high school sports and varsity sports, especially at that level. So wanted to see how it goes. And then honestly, it didn't really come down to me being that much better at anything. Our baseball team at Baylor, my freshman year, we were insanely good. The middle infielders that I had, like freshman year varsity practices, I had playing second base, second baseman in front of me, Cooper Kinney got drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
Our shortstops, Chris Moore, obviously, one of the best players on a national championship team. Danny Corona was a great player. And we had a ton of good players elsewhere on the field, but particularly in the middle infield. So that was like, I mean, obviously an amazing thing to get to be able to play with those guys, but was just kind of a discouraging thing and, made me want to think about basketball a little more seriously. And then going into my sophomore year, we had a lot of seniors that had just graduated from the team, and they had a good team my freshman year, so I didn't get to play varsity basketball. I just went to practices and stuff. And then going into my sophomore year, the guard spots were pretty wide open. And going into the season, it was looking like I was going to be the sixth man. We had a senior shooting guard, another senior small forward, and then we had a new boarder from he's Lithuanian, but from London, and he was a good player. So I had a couple guys ahead of me, and then right before our first game of the season, coaches decided I was going to be in the starting lineup. And most people didn't really think we were going to have a great team, especially compared to Macaulay that year. We had a lot of new faces and not a lot of continuity. And then I had a good sophomore year. My first Baylor Macaulay game, I had 24 points and took them
Was
down.
that was that home or away? Which one was first? Because I
Nah,
think.
that was Best of Preps championship my
Oh, I
sophomore year
remember. I remember that.
at Chattanooga State, and
I remember.
they were favored. They had a lot of good guys too. A couple guys that big time college football, college basketball players, and we were kind of two young guards and a lot of baseball players, and Kurtz and I put it to him. And then I had a really good sophomore season after that, and then after that was COVID, so my sophomore baseball season didn't happen, and I was kind of on the fence about playing or not. And then I think I decided that I wasn't going to play. And then COVID happened and the season didn't happen at all. So, coming back, playing baseball again would have been my junior year, 2 years later, and we had a great team. Even, the middle infielders in my grade or other position players in my grade, like we had a great team. So, I had a great year in basketball my sophomore year, and then COVID shut baseball down. And at that point, it was time to take basketball recruiting more seriously. So that's how I narrowed it down.
Yeah. I know from personal experience that baseball team is
Yeah,
juggernaut, a juggernaut.
they had
So,
some dudes.
oh, dude, they had a lot of dudes. Let me tell you. Oh, Lord. But yeah, that leads.
AL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. Well, honestly, yeah, dude.
And he at that point, I mean, no disrespect to him, he's the man now, but he was like maybe I can't even throw a number out there, like our fifth best player as far as
Oh,
recruiting and hype and stuff.
dude, I
Like
forget.
Cooper, Danny, Chris Moore, Vito had a lot of hype.
Yeah.
Any of the older guys, Ahern was Mr. Baseball.
Yeah. So my senior year, it was sorry, we're going off a little tangent here, but that
All good.
was the year y'all's baseball field got flooded.
Your senior year
Yeah.
was what year did you graduate? 19?
2019, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. My freshman year.
Yeah. So I guess the year after, but all correlates the same guys. But yeah, so y'all were playing at our field for a little bit. But I remember one game, it was like Danny hit one. and then Nick hit one, and then I think Ahern. It was unreal. It was
Yeah. Those dudes, all of them were really good. And
yeah.
it's good, great to see a couple of them, shaking out in the pros.
Oh, dude. I mean, yeah, freaking. I think Cooper is the next one up. Honestly,
Yeah, Cooper's
he's
he's
either
kind of
double.
gone through the more natural progression, like
Yeah,
single A, double A, hopefully get to triple A, hopefully get to the majors.
yeah. That leads into my next question because I always find this cool. Not gonna lie, I kind of bragged about you to a bunch of people, but I want you to tell your story about how I guess you got your recruiting, like your spot on South Carolina.
So this is like probably one of the most unconventional recruiting stories that there is. So, I went to, as I said, but I went to Baylor in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Lamont Paris and all of his staff. He was the head coach at UTC.
Shout him out. Shout out the guy, dude.
Yeah, the whole time I was at Baylor, he was at UTC. And they came to one of our pickup games to watch us like pre-basketball in the fall, before official practice started and stuff, just the guys that were going to be playing on the team coming to play pickup, and they were coming to look at another one of my teammates, who's a good player, is having a good college career, and they were looking at giving him a scholarship. And to me, I was like, we had a lot of college coaches, mid-major D1 coaches come and look into this guy. So I would always go in the workouts with him before school or after school to work out with him in front of these coaches. And I never thought, it was going to lead to anything. And then we had the UTC guys, Coach Paris and some of the assistants, coming in and out of workouts and practices and stuff like that. And they would also be at Baylor Macaulay games. They were recruiting some of the guys that Macaulay had. So they knew around Baylor Macaulay usually have some of the best players in the city. And Coach Paris came up to me one day after we were playing pickup. And I thought he was just going to say, what's up? I like your game or whatever. And, he had a lot of good things to say about me at that time. And I was really appreciative of it. He was like, yeah, I really like your game. I think you're a good player. Um, you might not be getting looks to go play at the D1 level, but I think you could be something for our team at UTC, and I think you could help us out as a walk-on. And he had a good relationship with Coach Price, who was my coach at Baylor now, the athletic director. Shout out to him, great coach.
Yeah.
Listen, but Coach Paris and Coach Price had a good relationship, and Coach Price came up to me and said he had been talking about Coach Paris and all that stuff about, being a walk-on at UTC. And it was something that I had never really considered. At that point in time, I talked to a lot of D2 coaches and a lot of D3 coaches. And at that time, really, I was just planning on going to an SEC school, going to Tennessee or South Carolina or Georgia, and, hanging them up. I wasn't planning on playing at the D2 or D3 level, and whatever came at the D1 level, didn't think anything was going to happen, and I had those opportunities, so I went, watched a couple games at UTC, hung out with the coaches and stuff, and then that's when my senior year there is when they hit the buzzer beater in the conference tournament. They had a really good team, and
John Baptiste, dude. I
yeah,
remember that vividly.
yeah, no, that was a great game. And they had a really good team. They had a good year. Good game in the tournament against a really good Illinois team. And so Coach Paris at that time, they were out. I mean, he was a SoCon coach that had just won the championship and had a lot of buzz. So he was, looking to go get a high major job. And at that same time, I was like, yeah, the only real opportunity that I was considering at that time was, the D1 walk-on spot at UTC. So, I was hanging them up, looking at schools, what business school did I want to be at? And, that was really my biggest consideration at the time. And, South Carolina is the best undergraduate international business in the country. And, that's what I wanted to do. So I had decided that I was going to go to South Carolina even before Coach Paris and them did. And I was here on admitted students weekend, and one of my friends from Chattanooga was good friends with Coach Paris, and they were texting him, and I was texting Colby Arundel, the DOps guy, and Coach Paris. And, I went and hung out with them, and it was just kind of a really random thing. They're like, wow, we wanted you to walk on at UTC, and now we're here, and now you're going to come here. And, I didn't think anything of it at that time. Like, there was no offer or anything. And then they texted me, a few weeks later, asked me if I wanted to be a manager, and I was like, I mean, I called him, talked to him about it, and I was like, yeah, sure. No biggie. I'll worry about it in August. And then a few weeks later, Colby Arundel texted me, and I remember he texted me in the morning, and I woke up and I looked at my phone, and he was like, "Do you want to play on the team?" And I just sat there for a second. I looked at it, and I was like, "This is not what I thought was going to be happening." I retired 3 months ago. I hung him up for good. I was running track and not taking anything too seriously. Now I gotta get back in shape. And, obviously that's a crazy text. It's a crazy opportunity, a great story that Coach Paris and the guys from UTC. And, I even had a relationship with Colby. He's a Boyd Buchanan guy when I was a Silverdale guy. So I know
Yeah.
him way back in the day. So it was just a great story. And God bless, honestly, that I wanted to be here at the University of South Carolina, and Coach Paris and the staff got the opportunity to be here. And then, you know, a year after I hung them up, number two team in the country is in our house, and I'm out there with the guys,
Yeah.
getting thrown in the fire. So, it's not what I was expecting out of my college basketball career at the end of high school, but, I'm extremely grateful. I'm excited to be back this year. Looking forward to
Yeah. Two questions, but the first one, I guess, ties into that. You got a lot of playtime, what, your freshman year, I'd say?
freshman year. Yeah.
How was that? What was that experience?
So going into it, Coach Paris, kind of the same things he said to me when he came and watched me in high school. He thought I was a good player. He liked my game. He thought, I don't have the physical abilities of a lot of guys at the SEC or even at mid-major D1 level. I'm not out there running, jumping, catching hoops. That's not me. And, he liked my game and he thought I could help us out. And he told me when I got there, he was like, I, I mean, take this seriously. Like, you're not going to be, you have the opportunity for this. You're not going to be a walk on that just sits on the end of the bench and practices. Like, we want you to be in there and practice fully. If the time comes, you're going to be in the games. And I had a really bad first two experiences in college basketball. We had a scrimmage against Charlotte. I had a broken nose. I had a really bad concussion a few weeks before.
Oh.
I had like just got back, got thrown in the scrimmage, had a mask on, couldn't see, airball to three, got taken out. Just a terrible first scrimmage. And then my first college game, South Carolina State, came in guarding the point guard like two plays in a row. Maybe not back to back plays, but did it twice. Like sidestep threes, just ISO sidestep, bang, went in. And, those are tough moments. Like welcome to it, getting thrown in the fire. And I loved getting thrown into the fire. You get embarrassed a couple times, but it happens.
Yeah, but then you made some big threes down the road.
Yeah, yeah, leading into that, I had some bad early experiences, and then going into the SEC play, we had our starting shooting guard went down, another guard off the bench went down, and I was lucky to get a role playing, kind of 4 minutes in the first and second half, ended up kind of being the times that I was going in, and we had number two Alabama. They had a really good team. It was Brandon Miller had a lot of the media hype around the off the court stuff that was going on in Alabama. Mark Sears was a really good player. They had a lot of other good guys, and they're the number two team in the country. We were not very good at the time, and they came in and first half, I think it was a tie game. Maybe we are down three. I got subbed in. And, even the walk from the bench to the scores table, the student section's going crazy. It's like finally, like Eli Sparkman is in the game. Everyone's going crazy. And first play, like the announcers hadn't even finished saying it. They were like, yeah, Eli Sparkman, been getting some minutes in recent games. He's a good player, good passer, and boom, it was on me. Michi had a good drive, threw it to me in the corner, and, it had to go up. Shot it, went in. My first career field goal. It was a pretty crazy feeling considering the time and the team we're playing. They're one of the best teams in the country, and they're hot, and they're a really good offense. And I hit that three in the first half. Stadium was going crazy. It was an
Dude,
amazing feeling. And then it was a great game. We ended up losing an overtime heartbreaker.
Yeah.
It would have been a better story if, that was my first shot of college, help us got that win over the number two team in the country, but still a great game, a great experience. And then I played, kind of same situation, a couple minutes, first and second half, the rest of the year. And, we didn't have a great record that year, but, it was a rebuild year. It was Coach Paris's first year, and I had, great experiences in it. Got to, go out there and show what I could do a little bit, that I'm not just going to be a practice player on the end of the bench. Like, I can go out and compete against these guys.
Yeah. And then correct me if I'm wrong, that next year, was that the next year where y'all were
That
projected?
was our game.
Yeah.
Or finish where you're projected.
Projected last, right? And then you have an amazing year. That's
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. That was so my sophomore year. That was the year. BJ and Salon were big time transfers. They ended up having really good years. Colin Murray Boyle's freshman year. And yeah, freshman year, that year we had, GG, Coach Paris's first year.
Mhm.
We were projected maybe last, probably last in the conference, and we ended up there's 14 teams at the time, so I think 12th or 11th. And then the next year, we were picked last again, and completely different story. So that just goes to show, at least especially today in college basketball, it's really hard to know how teams are going to be in the preseason. Like transfer portal rankings, yeah, they're a good guess. High school stars, they're a good guess, but first day of the season, everyone's 0-0, and then second part of the season, January 1st, everyone in the SEC is 0-0. And that
Yeah.
year we were really good. We had some big time wins. We beat Kentucky at home. That was my 20th birthday, and we stormed the court. That's one of my best college memories.
Yeah.
And then, going to Tennessee and winning that year was really cool.
Oh, I remember that one vividly. If I
Yeah, I'm a Tennessee fan growing up. I'm only about a little over an hour away from Knoxville. So my dad went to Tennessee. My brother was at Tennessee at the time. I've been a Tennessee fan my whole life, and they were really good. Dalton Connect was killing. I forget what they were ranked, but
oh,
pretty highly. I mean, top 5, top 10
yeah.
at least. And we were hot. We had a great game up there. Tennessee has not lost very many home games in the last 5 years. So, it was good.
Yeah.
It was a great memory, great experience given one of those. And then we went to March Madness that year. We lost in the first round to Oregon. It was a tough game, a tough draw. We had, I think the situation was we were going to be tied for second in the SEC in a three-way tie, and we were going to win the tie. But then Tennessee lost to Kentucky, and
Mhm.
that made it a four-way tie. And we lost the four-way tie, and we ended up being the 5 seed. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's exactly how the numbers were, but we had a really unfortunate tiebreaker situation, and it made us the 5 seed. So then we had to play. Then we didn't get the double bye. Had to play Auburn. Lost a bad game. Then we're a 6 seed, having to play an 11, a really good Oregon team that just came off a good run, just got healthy, Pac-12 champs.
Yeah.
And we were, I mean, we won a game in the SEC tournament and then lost to Auburn, so it's not like we're on a cold streak, but we were a little cold, and they were, hot as could be, and they had a really good game against us. But that year was special. Set some records at the school. I believe it was the most wins in school history. Definitely up there. 2017 went to the Final Four here, but we had a great year, special. A lot of great guys, a lot of great memories.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of which question I want to ask first. But I've always wondered this because I'm not a college basketball player, but there's all the talk of like these conference tournaments, and pretty much there's so much basketball to be played. For a team that's on the bubble of making the tournament or not, obviously you want to win more games rather than not. But do you think it's how am I trying to word this? What's give me a second because I'm trying to word this properly. But I guess the mentality of, maybe losing early so you get more rest versus playing more games and staying, pretty hot, I guess. What's your opinion on that? I mean, obviously you want to win games, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
But
No, it's a tough question, and it's a good debate. Sometimes the worst thing you can do, especially in the SEC, when you're already going to get a bid, is come in second in your conference tournament
Yeah.
because that means nothing. That's not a banner. You're not hanging up conference champion, runner up, and
Yeah.
all it does is, in the SEC tournament, playing those games back to back to back. Like if you're already going to be a 4 seed, why do you want to play until Sunday when you could go home on Friday? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you're never gonna go out there and try to lose, but there is a situation where it's better to lose in the quarterfinals and get ready for the NCAA tournament and get back and get healthy and recover and do treatment and all that stuff instead of grinding it out and coming in second in the conference tournament. So yeah, I see both sides. Obviously, you never want to try to lose a game, and coaches aren't going to be telling guys, "Let's lose." I think before that, there would just be, and it could be something that happens eventually. A coach just says they don't want to go, they don't want to play in the conference tournament. We already know what seed we're going to be. We're happy with it. Maybe if we drop a little bit for not going, or we just forfeit our first game, like it is what it is, and we're gonna get however many extra days rest to get ready. I think it's something that could happen in the future, and big schools, conference tournaments are completely different. For mid major schools, that's your chance, and um, you could you go 0 in however many regular season games and win your conference tournament. I think it was in the SoCon last year. Wofford didn't
Yeah.
have a great year, and then they won the tournament over good teams like UT Chattanooga and Furman, who had great years and made the tournament. But for big schools, yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
There is sort of some gamesmanship to how far you want to go, but obviously that opportunity to be able to hang it up or hang up the banner and get the rings to say you are SEC champions of the tournament. You won the tournament of the best league in the country is something that every team wants to get to, but there is some truth that it could hurt you in March Madness.
Yeah. Give me your March Madness experience though. Not many people can say they went to a March Madness tournament. So that's one of the coolest things ever. So yeah, give me a little tidbit of that.
Yeah, it was a great experience. At the beginning of the season, March Madness is on the table for everyone, but when you looked at the landscape of the SEC and how talented some of the top teams were, South Carolina Gamecocks, um, 6 seed is not what you thought it was going to be, or 5 seed or whatever it was. And we had a great year, had a lot of big wins, and going into the in the conference play, when you're seeing that we won a couple big games, oh, we're still not ranked, we should be, and then we win a really big game, and then our ranking is creeping up there. It's like we could get to be a pretty good seed, and the fans are building hype. The students are buying into the team a little more, and they're forced to say, the Gamecocks, who we thought was 16, is a really good team. They got a lot of really good players, and they could be dangerous in March. And so, it's awesome just knowing that you're going to get to be able to have that opportunity and the love you get from the students and the fans when you're having a good year. And then, getting to sit down on selection day, sit with your team at a restaurant and look on TV, and you're going to get to go somewhere cool anywhere across the country and just waiting for your team's name to pop up and just sitting there with your guys, your brothers you've been working with all year for this moment, and all the teams in the country that are going to the tournament are sitting there glued to the TVs. And it's really one of the coolest postseasons in all of sports, that so many different teams and the one seeds, the blue bloods, are going to go play a pretty small school that just won their conference tournament. I think is a really cool thing. And, just the hype around it, like that first day and the weekend, Sweet 16, Elite Eight, just watching all those are all great games, is a really cool thing. But personal experience, so we went to Pittsburgh and we played against Oregon. And there's just a lot of cool things going on in the city. Coming in and out of your hotel. Well, first, going there is a little different. You're flying there on a big plane. You got a lot of people coming to take pictures. The news crew, coming out there, talking to coaches, talking to people in your last practice. Get on the bus, go to the airport. People are taking pictures. News is there. Get on the plane, and the cheer team is with you. The dance team is with you. There's a bunch of other people from the school with you, and there's just a lot of people that are proud of the team and proud to be South Carolina Gamecocks, going up there to support. And you play in a cool arena. We were playing in the Penguins arena, and there was a lot of other good teams there. Kentucky was there. Their loss to Oakland was in Pittsburgh, and
Oh, is it? I forgot about
yeah, they
forgot
weren't
about
they weren't in our group of four, but they were also in Pittsburgh. That was an
yeah.
awesome game, and that's what March Madness is all about. And going to the shoot around, on the March Madness court, and seeing going in the locker room and getting a bunch of gear, getting the March Madness, jumpsuits, random stuff, gifts they're giving out. It's a cool experience and very different than anything, very different than the conference tournament, and just the amount of love everybody's getting. And then, on the way to the game, there's fans that are coming from South Carolina and all over the country up to Pittsburgh just to stand in the hotel lobby and high five the team, take pictures with the team, tell them they're proud of them, just say "Go Cox" as they're walking out the door. It's just a lot of love. We have a great fan base, and they really showed out for us. So it's really just an awesome experience. A lot of eyes on you, a lot of people there to support you. And it's cool getting to play in a big arena against a cool team. And there's other teams. I think Creighton and someone else played right before us, or they were there that weekend. So they're a good team. So there's just a lot going on. A lot of teams, a lot of fans. College basketball just sort of takes over the city for a couple of days. You see all the other school stuff everywhere. You see the other teams at the restaurants, and you see fans from random schools. It's a cool thing that everyone comes together and supports all that. So, I mean, I loved it. Hopefully, we get to go back this year, do a little more damage, make it out of the first round. Get into that second weekend would be awesome because I know it just gets cooler. More gear, more love, more
Yeah.
pictures, more media, more everything the farther you get. So, it was a cool experience, and hopefully, we get to do it again this year.
Yeah. It's a good transition. What's the team? How are we what's the expectations this year?
So according to SEC media, kind of
Which that's
similar
going
to,
on right now, right? I
yeah.
think so. Yeah.
SEC Media Day was yesterday, for the players and coaches, but they're still doing their stuff, giving the rankings and predictions and like I said, a lot of that stuff is who had these stars in high school and transfer portal stuff, and you can quantify it to a certain extent, but it's hard to know. Like I said, freshman and sophomore year, we were predicted both years to be near the bottom of the conference, and those two teams were completely different stories in March. One of them we were going home after losing day one of the SEC tournament, and the other one, we were winning the game in the SEC tournament and heading to March Madness. So, we're picked near the bottom of the conference. I think it's 16, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 14, but we're 0-0 in my mind in the conference and overall. So that's really all that matters, and we're focused on us. We got a lot of good guys coming in. We have a lot of experienced guards, which is a really important thing. I think it's going to help us a lot. Michi is back. He was here my freshman and sophomore year. Was Ohio State last year, and he's back. He's a good player, proven himself in this conference. And Miles Studi got his year back, medical red shirt from last year. And then Mike is another transfer is hopefully going to have a good year. And we have a lot of good freshmen. We're a deep team, deeper than the teams I've been on
Yeah.
as far as guys at the bottom that can produce and go out there, and even in practice, guys at the bottom that are competing with everyone on the team. We have good competition going right now, top to bottom. So I think it's going to benefit us a lot. We have a good team. We got a lot of experienced guards. We're meshing really well. I think this team plays together and gets along off the court, which you know nobody in SEC Media Day can quantify the extra work you're putting in or the team chemistry you're building off the court or how this lineup plays together. They just know your ranking and they knew who you were last year, but they can't really tell how the team is going to play together this year. And I think, we have an opportunity to be good, and we got a lot of really skilled players that can do a lot of different things. And, I'm confident in us, confident in our guys, confident in our coaches. I think we have a great year this year.
Yeah. And I've always thought that. I mean, Lamont Paris is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated coaches in the SEC for sure, but I think in college basketball in general. So what's it like having a guy like that as your head coach?
I like him a lot personally. He's believed in me since he saw me playing pickup basketball after school in high school. And him and all the other coaches have believed in me and told me, yeah, you're a walk-on, but get ready, lace them up. We're gonna throw you out there. And I mean, they've done it, and I was successful in some of those moments, which allowed me to continue to get some more playing time freshman year. And getting thrown in the fire, they're gonna throw in the fire who they think is gonna give them the best chance to win, and that might not be the five best guys at running and jumping, or even the five best three-point shooters. It's going to be the five guys that are giving us a chance to win, doing some other things that often get overlooked. They're big believers in that type of stuff, which benefits me a lot, because my game is not flashy stuff and making crazy plays. I'm going to come in and try to do the right stuff on offense, get the ball moving, knock down shots when I need to, and on defense, play the rules, do everything right, communicate, and just play hard and go out there and do the right stuff. And the coaches value that a lot, and that's a great thing for me. And I enjoy playing in his offensive style. Is not robotic at all. They just want to get us out there in good situations and really let hoopers hoop. Like, it's not the coach's job to draw up every single play and get you this look and say you're going to shoot it here. They want to get us out there in good lineups and create space for us and give people the opportunity to go out there and show what they can do. If there's particular situations you're good at, they're going to try to get you in those, but they want us to go out there and hoop and show what we can do. And I think that's going to serve this team well, because we got a lot of skilled guys, different guys that can bring the ball up the court and be good in different positions and go out there and hoop.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious because with all the talk too about like the possibility of like walk-ons dying pretty much with all the NIL stuff. Um, what do you think? What's the toughest part about being a walk-on?
Um, I think it's going to be hard for walk-ons, and it's a bigger theme going on in the NCAA is going to be hard for schools to prioritize walk-ons and prioritize some of the other sports that are not bringing in revenue. Like, let's say for basketball walk-ons in particular, um, you know, I'm not sure what the rule is going to be in a few years, but I think as of right now, teams are not taking any new walk-ons, and I was able to come back as a walk-on because I had already been here and talked to the coaches and had been promised that and been told that I was going to be able to come back this year. But I think it's a tough thing for walk-ons in general, with new roster limits, being able to take 15 scholarship guys. And I'm biased. I'm a walk-on. I want walk-ons to be in the SEC. I think it's an awesome thing and really representative of what college basketball is all about, is giving opportunities to these guys. And it's been a great opportunity for me because I would not be able to play at an SEC school without the opportunity for teams to take walk-ons. And I don't want that to be taken away. I think teams should be able to take 15 scholarship guys and take however many walk-ons they want, whether that walk-on, is really just a practice player that comes out and does drills and helps the team out and sits on the end of the bench, or whether, in my case, that walk-on is someone who is going in the games when the team needs it. And even if they get a jersey and they sit at the end of the bench, or, they just get some of the benefits and have to sit in a jumpsuit because there's a limit on how many people can sit on the bench. But I think, walk-ons are good for the sport. There's so many walk-on stories of
Oh,
walk-ons, getting up to become scholarship players and becoming great players and going on to have great professional careers. And, I think it's something that I can't even keep up. I don't know what the ruling is today, but I want walk-ons to stay. And I want the NCAA to be able to, prioritize the revenue sports, football and basketball and girls basketball some places, and take them seriously. But I don't want it to become too much of a business and lose focus on what it's really about and what it was about in the first place. Obviously, right now, SEC basketball and SEC football and other Power Four schools and the big sports, a lot of the focus is on getting those guys to the NFL, getting those guys to the NBA, the MLB, and that's important. College athletics, in my opinion, is the best way for those guys to be able to do that. but it's also the best way for a lot of people to get the opportunity to play the sport they love, whether it's the D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO level. People get to go to college and get an education. Some people get it paid for, but some people just get to continue to be playing a sport they love and get that camaraderie of being in a group, and having, people that you're going to war with at every level in every sport, I think is important. And I don't want college sports to be too revenue driven and just focus on the main sports, because I think that would ultimately they would lose a big piece of what college sports is really about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, obviously, college and professional sports are completely different, but that's what I always loved about college sports because you're not obviously like people are getting paid now. That's a given, but the stories about like all these, I mean, you see it a lot in football too, but all these walk-on stories that they got the scholarship. That's what makes college sports great. So,
Yeah, that and even it's hard for the big schools right now in football and basketball, because with NIL and with the pipeline that's going through from these top schools to the NFL and NBA, it is a completely different story than it used to be, and obviously they need to be focusing on getting those guys ready. Well, if they're a one and done guys, obviously they're still going to participate in school, but that's not the main thing they're focused on. They're focused on getting better and getting ready for the NFL, 3 years in that case, or NBA. But I think schools are going to have to balance that. Finding a way to have the best NIL situation for your football and basketball team, and also continue to pour in resources to some of those other teams. That's more the case for D1, but D2s and D3s. I hope that how big call it D1 football and basketball are getting doesn't have negative impacts on sports at other levels and other schools, because I think it's really important. And for some people, for the majority of college athletes, it's not going to be I went to this school and it got me to the NBA. It's I went to this school, had the opportunity to get a degree and make some of my best friends for life and be connected with those people. So I think that's really the important stuff.
yeah. I got a I got one more question, and this is more of like a fun question though. Like you said it was cool playing in Pittsburgh and playing in that arena. But what has been like the coolest places you've been to, like the coolest arenas, I guess?
So I would say the two coolest
Besides
away
besides
experiences.
South Carolina, obviously, besides South
Yeah,
Carolina.
Colonial Life Arena in the cockpit, it's amazing. But I'm gonna talk about some of the away trips. So my freshman year were two of my best memories. We went to Kentucky my freshman year and got a win at Rupp. We had a great game. Michi had 30 or something, made some crazy shots. And, we were having a bad year at the time. We had a bad first game in SEC play. And then, game two, we're getting a win at Rupp. Was a pretty cool experience. I believe it was our first SEC win. So it was Coach Paris's first SEC win, my first SEC win. So that was a cool way to start the success as a team in Rupp Arena. They got Oscar Sheboy's got all these accolades and is a great player and an unstoppable force. And they had a lot of other good players and guys that went on to have good NBA careers. But we found a way to get it done. Mostly thankful to Michi hitting some crazy shots, but that was a really awesome win. And then personally, my favorite moments from my game. The three I made against Alabama was my first field goal in college. It was the number 2 team in the country. They had a bunch of hype. We had a bunch of students there. They were rowdy. A bunch of people were bought up in all of the media hype, off the court stuff at that time, and we had a lot of fans. It was a big game. I hit a big shot. It was really fun. It was one of the loudest the arena's been, and it was awesome to that it was for me. It was just a great experience and something I'll never forget, and got some cool pictures out of it that hopefully I'll hang up one day. And then
Mhm.
at Tennessee, my freshman year, we got popped, but I made a three. That was a cool feeling because I was a Tennessee fan growing up my whole life. I've been to a ton of Tennessee basketball games. I've been watching forever. I remember, being probably in 5th grade and sitting outside of the locker room or somewhere around that time, being a little kid, sitting outside the locker room, waiting for Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams and Jordan Bone and Bowden and all those guys. And, those guys, I mean, when you're a fifth grade guy from East Tennessee and you go to see a good Tennessee game and they're good, those are your heroes in that moment.
Yeah.
And, it was cool to be, however many years later, lacing them up and going against those guys that I used to, sit around the locker room and wait for. Is like, I'm going in the game in the first half and we're trying to compete and getting to make it three in that moment was awesome. I had a lot of family and friends there and students I went to high school with in the student section and people from church and people texting me, texting my family, saying they're proud of me and all this stuff. So, you know, got to obviously get a lot of love from South Carolina, but getting that love in Tennessee from,
Yeah.
my hometown friends and stuff just meant a little extra.
Yeah. That's awesome. Actually, I got one more. This is going to be a good one to end on. What do you think of the all the quarter zip hype?
The
All the
quarter zip
fans.
height. I think it's funny and LP is not on social media all the time. I don't even think he has Instagram and maybe he has a Twitter, but I don't think he really uses it. So I don't think he really sees or knows how big it is. Originally he didn't, people have told him now. But my sophomore year, there was, a Twitter page just about his quarter zips, what he's bringing out to the game and his record in this color. And oh, he's got a new one. But, and people see him on game day and think, yeah, he's wearing quarter zips on game day, but he's wearing them all the time. I think, this is my third season here, and I've probably seen him twice not wearing a quarter zip and the same pants and the same shoes. That's what he's in every day. It doesn't matter the weather. That's his style. That's how he is.
Does he have a specific quarter zip he wears for game day, or is it different?
Um, I think some of the fans knew on Twitter that say it was like the black one with the Carolina script. We were 4-0 and he'd come out wearing this, but I don't think he knew at that time, how big it was.
Yeah.
He wasn't keeping up with it, but it's something cool that the fans were keeping up with and he's bought into it a little bit. Like this year at Media Day, they had something, with the fire behind him and he was zipping it up and looking. So he's bought into it, but I don't think he ever thought it was going to be anything and he's never doing anything for social media and it just
Yeah.
kind of blew up on its own. Just someone in the fan base caught on and made a page and it's funny and we got a quarter zip or two I think this year in the team gear and everyone was saying they got their Coach Paris outfit ready and stuff. So it's good. Everyone makes good jokes about it.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. God, that's what makes college sports great, though, is stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know I've been wanting to get you on for a long time. Sorry we couldn't do it last week,
Yeah.
but
No
yeah,
problem.
I wanted to get you on last week because of Baylor McCauley.
Yeah, it would have been cool. We
Yeah,
got to talk about that a little bit though.
we could talk about it a little bit. We could talk about it a little bit, I guess. What do you
Yeah.
want to talk about?
I mean, it went our way this year. Overall, whoever sees this,
Little brother over there,
whoever
little.
sees this, we know where the place is.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a great rivalry. It's an awesome thing for Baylor McCauley and football. And, this year I think we got the wins in, football and soccer and all the girls' sports. And I think everything, honestly, during rivalry week. And, that's how I'm expecting it goes in basketball this year, I hope. Um, but,
yeah,
it's a great thing overall. Those Baylor McCauley games are awesome. Some of my best memories of the basketball season. And, when the season comes out, those are probably the two things you circle is at McCallie and McCallie at Baylor in basketball and some great games and some of my greatest memories. But
yeah. I don't think, especially at Baylor, because y'all's court is so like not small, but it's like almost packed.
yeah.
It gets so loud in there. Did you ever make it to like any of the wrestling matches?
Yeah, I went to the Bama McCallie wrestling matches, and then they started doing them the same day as basketball, and it would be at like 4 o'clock at McCallie, and then everyone would bus after that and go straight to the basketball game, which is awesome.
I missed
Combining
that.
those two
Dang,
things.
I missed
But
that part.
yeah,
Golly.
I think that was like my junior year and senior year, or maybe just senior year. But yeah, those matches are cool, and that's what's so cool about Baylor McCallie is, cross country. Oh, it's against McCallie. Like, let's take it serious. It's a track meet. It's like yeah, let's get a good time or let's beat Macaulay in every sport, every girl's sport, anything, you
Yeah.
know, whether that's pranks going on downtown in rivalry week or anything,
You ever
you're trying to
partake
beat
in
Macaulay.
those? Did you ever?
Yeah, I did. I did. Those are some good memories. Got in a little bit of healthy trouble, not too much.
Yeah.
But
Respect.
that's part of what makes it so cool is at the end of the day, like all of those, everyone that goes to Baylor and Macaulay and GPS are the same community and they're all friends and they went to the same elementary school and the same church and their parents are friends and all this. So it is. I don't want to say it's one big family, but it is definitely a community that, comes together for those things. Obviously, there's a lot of hatred on game day, and when you're a player, there's a lot of
Yeah.
hatred for the other team that you're facing up against. But at the end of the day, they're both all three, Baylor, College, GPS, are all great places. Um,
Yeah. It's always cool, like to brag about it. As this, I sound like such an old head right now talking about this stuff
yeah,
because it's been a couple years now. But like no one, unless you're from Chattanooga, no one like really, or like you were an alumni, but no one really understands the rivalry aspect of Baylor Macaulay
yeah.
and
A
being
lot of
in.
my friends at South Carolina that went to some of the private schools here, they're always like, have something to say. Everyone knows about Baylor Macaulay. Like it's a big rivalry everywhere. My friends here are like, oh, you went to Baylor. Like, what's that other school you always play, Macaulay? Or like, how's Baylor Macaulay? Or I saw that on social media. So, it's a great rivalry and, got a lot of attention. But a lot of other private schools and other places, like to throw darts at us because they know who the big dogs are. But
I know a lot of people from Ole Miss that like went to like Jackson Prep. They don't understand. They don't understand the hype of the
no,
rivalry at all. But
they don't get it.
it's cool, like especially like going to Arizona for the few years and like just being like, yeah, I'm as dumb as it sounds, like Baylor McCauley's this weekend, and no one like understanding the rivalry, and then showing them like they're so cheesy. I'm gonna be honest, they're so cheesy, but like the music videos we did,
They're cool.
they're
It's cool.
cool. I think it's cooler
It's
when you're like
yeah,
in
I mean,
school.
yeah. When you're older and you're looking back and it's like, yeah, it's dumb, but like those kids are 17 years old. Like that's the most fun they've ever had is Baylor Macaulay week. Like it's the time of their life. Like when I did it, I thought it was the most fun thing ever. Like yeah, it's cheesy now and some of the stuff that goes on game day and the Letterman and spirituals and all that stuff, but that's what makes it so great.
Yeah. God, first off, were you a letterman for football or
I
no?
was, yeah.
You were one of those guys. One of the.
Yeah, I was one of those guys.
No, I'm
So I
kidding.
was I was at the forefront of all the cheesy shenanigans and all the stuff that went on.
What letter were you?
I was the A.
The A? Okay. All
Yeah,
right. I respect it a little bit. If you were the
yeah,
B, not as much.
yeah. Nah, I was
But I
not the B.
remember vividly my freshman year was the first year that they did the music video, in which you were probably at Silverdale then, I think.
Yeah, was that Run This
20.
Town?
Oh, yeah, that was Run This Town.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was in. You were ninth grade. Yeah, I was in sixth grade at Silverdale.
Yeah. Well, I remember vividly we lost at Baylor and they started playing that music video. It was brutal. Brutal being
Yeah,
there
it's
and
cool.
hearing it, but that's what makes the rivalry great. So,
Yeah, it's
but
awesome.
I don't think people understand. Really, it's honestly like as like I said, as dumb as it sounds, like we went to a rodeo. Um, I guess when was that? Was that last week or 2 weeks ago, Baylor McCauley? I guess it was 2 weeks ago now,
That
right?
was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was literally no one at the rodeo because first off, it was like Baylor McCauley, and then Cleveland and Walker Valleys, which is another
Yeah.
somewhat
Good
bigger, or
rival.
yeah, another big rivalry. But I think that was the biggest Baylor McCauley game in history. Just like
Yeah, I watched it on the Max Prep stream, and there was people. I remember you could just walk along um, behind both end zones and just get to the other side, and now it's five people deep up on the fence, and they've got big cameras, and obviously Max Preps, like improved the production, just for that one. But yeah, it was crazy seeing how many people were there and all the hype was around it, and all the big players that both teams have. Both teams have a lot of great players that are going to be successful, and both teams in the last couple of years have had a lot of good college football players come out. But
yeah,
it's the quality of the game is a lot different than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's night and day difference, honestly, but it's still awesome. And it's cool that the teams are able to compete at that level and all the
Yeah.
schools, all the rivalry stuff is still behind it. And, I went, I went, my freshman year of college. I don't remember what it was. I think we had like a hurricane warning or something in Columbia, and we were like off school Friday and we couldn't practice, and it was Baylor Macaulay weekend, and I wanted to go home. I was either all my friends are in Charleston, and I wasn't going there because of the storm, and there was nothing to do here, so I went home. And I went to the game, and that was the first time Baylor had won. They did not win when I was a student, and I got to
Yeah,
see that.
it was a little brother while I was there too. Little brother. We'll
Yeah,
get you.
yeah, it was a bad stretch. Um, Bad stretch in football, at least.
Yeah. Uh, I guess this is another. Did y'all I feel like it's kind of like petty, but the whole Dr. Pepper 10 classic stuff, that
Yeah,
Macaulay does.
I think did Baylor play in it last year?
I don't remember. I maybe they might have. They
Yeah,
might.
I think I mean it's changed and lost some of its hype or a lot of its hype. They still had like some good teams last year, but I remember back in the day when it was like Junior Clay versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and
Oh, dude, I was not there for that one. I was on a
yeah.
plane. I
And they
missed.
had that IMG team they had with Noah Farrakhan and Baycott and Robinson Earl and Jaden Springer. That was a great team.
They
Oak
one year
Hill.
Oak Hill, dude, 1 year Oak Hill.
Lou had Tiger Campbell and Brian Bowen and all them. There's a lot of great
Anthony
people.
Edwards. Anthony Edwards played
Oh
there.
yeah, I remember that. I think I was yeah, I was in high school for that. Anthony Edwards was like a couple years older than me, so I was like playing against Macaulay at that time and went to that to watch them and then watch the Anthony Edwards game. But that was crazy.
Dude,
He's the most impressive player I saw there.
oh, 100%. 100%.
And that fast break windmill, I was just like, all right, this dude is like
Yeah.
there's a level, and then there's these dudes that are going to D1s, and then there's these dudes that are going to high majors, and then there's Anthony Edwards. He was
Yeah.
that much better, and it's cool that Macaulay was able to get those guys to be there.
Yeah. Did you, I guess, okay, we keep adding questions. Now this might be the last. Okay. I don't want to keep you too long, but
All good.
for the people that don't know about Macaulay's court, it's like they can look it up. It's like elevated. You're almost like on a platform, I guess, if that makes any sense. You
Yeah,
don't did that
yeah,
ever mess you up? Because like if you're running this way, you're just seeing like open space, I guess.
yeah.
It's
I'm the biggest rival of this place, so obviously I have a little bit of hatred for it, but I personally do not like shooting there at all.
yeah.
One side you're looking up into the feet of the people that are in the balcony, and on the other side you're looking at 100 feet of open space into the abyss of whatever, like the wrestling room back there, and then on one end of the court is just a cliff that goes 30 feet onto the floor. It's like, I mean, it's a great gym, and it's really nice because the people that are standing up there can see, and the bleachers are big and they have a good quality court and good rims and stuff, but the layout is just
It's
not
awful.
ideal for shooters just because the two ends are completely different from most gyms, and those two are completely different from each other. One you're looking at people, one you're looking at light.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've also heard this. I don't know if that's true, but I heard Baylor's court is actually like not regulation. Is that real or not?
That is too short.
Yeah.
I've heard that, and I never knew about this while I was there. Like, I never thought that it wouldn't be 94 feet. And then I don't think I've been back, but yeah, someone told me that it's not 94 feet. I think it is. I really don't know. I didn't know that this was a controversy while I was there, but I think it
Yeah.
is the same. It looks different because there's a brick wall 3 feet behind the baseline compared to Macaulay's is like got a lot of space on both sides, but
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, dude.
yeah,
This was awesome.
yeah,
So
got to be on.
yeah, hope to watch. I mean, dude, Gamecocks, man. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously you're seeing all the Tennessee stuff here,
yeah,
but I've I mean with Lamont being a, UTC guy. I've always supported him in South Carolina, as bad as that sounds, as being a Tennessee fan.
Yeah.
But man, I hope you all have a great year. So,
Yeah. Appreciate it.
yep, thank you, man.